Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Christian and I'm a mix engineer. We have another mix breakdown for you today, and it's Too Easy by Connor Price and Nic D. Let's dive in. Okay, so for starters, the thing that I love about Graham's Productions is that he keeps things super simple. Again, there's only kick, snare, hat, bass, and the sample right here. I love it. You know, it gives me a clear direction, a clear image of what he wants to hear sonically. He kind of already premixes a lot of this stuff, and it sounds great. I don't think everybody can do that, but he does a really great job at that, and it keeps things simple for me. So to start here, we have the kick, my favorite plugin, you guys all know, the transient shaper. This is just to shape the attack. Now, sometimes I touch the sustain. Today I did, just to kind of watch out for what's going on the tail here. I liked the attack and how hard it was hitting, but it was kind of trailing too long, especially with the bass being a little bit more consistent, a little bit longer bass trail. And then just a subtle EQ shape, get some of the mids out, boosted some of the highs just to kind of let it pop. So this is without. This is with. Simple stuff on the snare too. Just a simple high pass. I've talked about this before, but a lot of drum stuff, especially if it's sampled, just has a lot of unnecessary frequencies on the bottom end. Hats, snares, you can pretty much high pass all that stuff because it's just rumble that will, you know, if you keep stacking all that stuff on, it just muddies up your mix. And there's just a lot of this information you just don't need, especially when it's simpler mixes like this. Like just get rid of those frequencies. Then the hi-hat, same thing, high pass. Now I put this Devil Lock on. This is a really fun plugin. It's also a really crazy plugin if you overdo it, but it makes some really cool textures. And I do like to make my hi-hats stand out. If they're already sitting in a place where they're like crunchy, oftentimes I like pushing that a little bit to make it stand out more. So you can see here what this is doing. And now you might think, like, that's a pretty huge difference distortion-wise. But I think in context to the drums, it helps it stand out because there's only 3 drum tracks. You want that hat to, like, keep the timing of everything, you know? And then on top of all that, there's my normal saturation, and then the occasional bus limiting, which can squash transients if you do it wrong. I like to push limiters to where it just kind of evens transients out and brings glue. I talk about glue a lot, but just be careful. Like I said, be careful because the transients of the drum are really important. And if you over limit, then your drums are just squashed and they don't have any life to them. So these are the drums all together. Let me A/B with the drum bus processing on so you can hear that too. Let's move to the bass. So same thing for the bass. Sounds great. I think it's just like a sampled bass. I just killed it with the saturation again. I really like this plugin. I've talked about this plugin before. This SSL Fusion X Saturator has this texture to it that isn't super like digital saturation. It feels really warm, and even when you drive it, it just brings out a lot of cool extra harmonics that if you use a different plugin just makes it sound like really gritty and that this kind of sound to your ears. I don't feel like this plugin does that, which is why I use it a lot. I'll jump ahead real quick. Light EQ on this one because I didn't like that frequency in there. What am I doing? You're not even gonna hear that right now. Here's the important part. I talked about this on Instagram and I'll dive into this a little bit more. So let's zoom in here. You can see that there's a transient right here. It's right where the kick is. And I just didn't, when I was playing them back to back together, it was kick bass like right on top of each other. Unless you need that for some reason, which oftentimes you don't, you just want to try and create space for the kick and the bass. That relationship's super important, especially in simple productions or hip hop, like the 808s and the kicks and stuff like that. It's just so important. And so I cheated a little bit with this LFO tool, and you'll hear the difference here. There's a little bit of that like EDM thing. It's just to kill that initial dun, dun, dun. You just don't need it. In this song, all you're really looking for is the kick attack and then the bass feeling. I don't need to hear the doo-doo, which is why that's on there. And then super simple, the melody on top of it. I talked about this in Still Hot, and I actually treated this the same way because I felt like these songs were very similar vibes. The decapitator, a little extra grit. It's like the exact same thought process. The decapitator just brings kind of this like tape-ish quality to something that should sound like a vinyl. So here's that all together. Oh, and at the very end, I didn't like the way it abruptly ended. And so I did a little bit of I took some creative liberty and I added this verb on I just automated it right here just to kind of let it trail. It's not on the entire song up until the very end, as you can see. It just helps it give a little bit more of a stronger ending instead of it being so on the sample. So here's all the music together. Cool. Now let's dive into the vocals. Now I'm going to keep doing these videos, and I think it's fun to do Connor stuff because a lot of people are fans of Connor stuff. I think you'll start to see a little bit of a consistency in like how I treat his vocals, mainly because it kind of becomes clockwork when you're putting out that much music. Kind of know the intricacies of his vocal and like what he's going to do, what he's recording on, where he's recording on. There's a little bit of a routine that comes with mixing Connor, which is great because it keeps things super easy, especially with how much output he has. But I think it's also important to know that I think every song, because every song is different and you want to put some artistic value into every song, you still have to mix it and treat it differently. Like I'm not just going to put a template on each vocal, but it doesn't mean I run to the same plugins oftentimes because I know exactly kind of where it's going. And that's just to make things easier, more efficient. But I say all that because I do think it's really important to make sure that you hear the song, what the artist is going for, and to make sure that you mix the song like exactly how they want it and exactly like what the song is calling for. But I'll quickly dive into this. If you want to like see more detail on how I do vocals, you can see other videos that I've done, but it's the same thought process. One EQ, one compressor, start it off, get it to sound like it's in the room with me. Keep it super straightforward, especially with the way that vocals come in. They're oftentimes like too dynamic. They can also sound woofy. So I just EQ it and I compress it in a way that it makes it sound like we're having a conversation. And so my first EQ is this. Getting rid of a lot of that kind of low end, cutting out all the low end rumble here, getting some of this muddiness out here, and then just some of the honky kind of nasally y'all sound. And so without all that.
Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say,
And then again, here's my imaginary line. Here's the first compressor that I like to use. That compresses super lightly, 1 to 3 dB at 3 dB at the most. Usually it's hitting like 1 to 2.
Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say,
And then here beyond this imaginary line is my color EQ, my color compressor, and then some saturation, which I did end up using saturation for this song as well.
Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say, Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say,
Simple de-esser, and then again, fresh air, beautiful plugin, scary plugin, and it's running a lot lower than in my previous videos here.
Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say,
And then, like I've talked about before, I have my smash and overdrive to taste. I am pushing it really hard this time to the point where I had to put EQs on after it just to kind of clean up some of the muddiness that was coming from it. I liked what the smash and the overdrive were doing. It was bringing it out like really front and center, but I just did not like, it was starting to create this kind of weird old sound, so I just took that out.
Did it so casual, must be a natural. Heard him say,
And then I think with some of that smash, some of that overdrive, I finished it with another de-esser. I like this de-esser because it's a little more aggressive and it really kind of toothpicks out some of those weird frequencies. It's kind of like soothe in that sense. And my verbs and delays, I didn't use any delay. It's just there for the template. Same for this third verb here. This second one went to Nick. I just didn't move it. But the first verb is Lustrous Plates. It's another Slate plugin surprise, but I like it. I think it's a fun new plate plugin that it's kind of overlooked because it's got some cool texture to it. And it looks like, I think this chrome plate is the first one. Yeah, I probably just like threw it on there and didn't really even do anything to it. Like, did I do any EQ? No, nothing. Yeah, that's probably exactly how it comes. For this particular song, and he does this every so often. In fact, a lot of clients do this. They'll send me some treated stuff as some treated vocals as options. He treated his own doubles here. I think there's some delays on it and just kind of the treatment that he likes, especially Adlib stuff.
Hey, well, let's go.
And honestly, I prefer if someone sends me stuff like that that's kind of specifically treated. I don't usually love to try and recreate unless I need it. I don't like recreating that like telephone or like something that's super specific. A lot of times mixed revisions are usually just, hey, can it be more like the demo with this particular track? This synth track is sounding like, I wish it just sounded like the demo. And that's where I go, this is artist creativity, you know. I don't want to take away from that. As a mix engineer, I'm not trying to like recreate something that you love. Might as well just send me that. So like that's how Connor is for Adlibs. Just send me the Adlibs. Like I don't want to have to try and recreate something that you fell in love with in your own demo, you know? And then the exact same process with Nick. There's a specific moment in this song that I ended up using vocal line for his like high falsetto thing, and then added a doubler on it because I liked the way it was treated, but I wanted it to stand out a little bit more and keep it like kind of wide. The way it was before, here, you'll hear. The way it was before was Nick's vocal was like right here, the falsetto was on top, but right here. And just to make the falsetto stuff feel less kind of in my face, I put this doubler on it.
Gotta hop in my step, gotta bounce in my walk. Rubber bands from the check, it was more than I thought.
Super easy. And then to finish it all off, I've shown you this in my template before. I have the all music and all vocal. This one, I put the Pro L2 on it. I really like the glue that it brought to both the instruments and the vocal. And to be totally honest, sometimes I throw the plugin on the vocal stem just to make sure that the delay compensation is all correct. So nothing weird timings kind of going on. But for this one, I did end up limiting both the music and the vocal.
Let's go. Gotta hop in my step, gotta bounce in my walk. Rubber bands from the check, it was more than I thought. Fresh press, squeaky clean, wide awake, what a dream. Hey there, hi, hello, what's the...
And then to finish it all off, I put a limiter on my music bus just to kind of give it some glue. I've talked about this before. It's just a nice way to help compress the music without touching vocals, kind of before that mix bus stage. And so it's not doing a whole lot.
Let's go. Gotta hop in my step, gotta bounce in my walk.
And then I ended up just putting it on the vocal stem just for some like delay stuff, so it didn't end up creating any kind of weird delay. And here's everything together.
Run around, got a lot fools. And I still got the crown like a bad tooth. I am cool, I don't gotta act cool. Just follow where I lead you, pack mule. Blowing through the budget, the cash ain't nothing. The way I flip back, straight tens from the judges. Yeah, I'm the too big, can't.
And that's it. Thanks for watching.